Welcome to another exciting edition to Grove City Hockey Presents
Hockey in our neck of the woods, and you, sir, were a very talked about person towards the end.
I'm a fifth-year senior, kind of. Well, it's my sixth year of college. Incredible.
Hey guys, we want to say thank you to our sponsor, Cut Shield, for bringing you this episode. Make sure you check them out on the link below and use the promo code for 25% off your order. Used by all 32 NHL teams and players, Cut Shield is the premier protective player clothing designed by players for players. Their innovative cut-resistant clothing has prevented serious injury to numerous players, including over 30 NHL players. Cut Shield gives you the peace of mind to go out and play without worrying about injury. Use our promo code Grove City Hockey, all lowercase and no space, for an additional 25% off your order today. Welcome to GCH Podcast. I'm your host, Ben W. Stock, and with me is a very special guest. I've got Buddy Bugman. How you doing, man?
Good, man. How you been, man?
Oh, it's tired, but this baby's kicking my butt. So we have a 7-month-old who just does not want to sleep without you holding her.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude, that's the young man's game. I don't miss them days.
So, and I'm not young anymore. Like, I'll be 42 this year, and I'm just like, come on. Like, I'm looking at her going, okay, you're cute and adorable, but daddy needs some sleep. just go to sleep. And Mama got mad at me because I had to go to the bathroom, so I put her in her car seat, and she was sleeping. She's sleeping, no big deal. I went to the bathroom, came back out, and I'm like, well, I ain't waking the creature up, you know? No. So I just moved her next to me, laid down on the couch, fell asleep, and about, 45 minutes to an hour later, baby starts screaming and didn't wake up fast enough, and Mama come out, and she goes, what's she doing in her car seat? And I go, I had to go to the bathroom. She's like,
hey, man, there's no instructions. There literally is no instructions. So, all's fair in love and war, I suppose.
And so I'm like, all right, because normally I'll do the night shift. I'll let Mama sleep. Sure. And because Mama, she's a Capricorn, and so they if they don't get enough sleep, it's just not fun to be around. I don't know if you've ever been around a Capricorn who doesn't get enough sleep. It's brutal. Yeah. Yeah. So, buddy, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started in hockey? And how did you get your start from the beginning, and then let's work our way through.
Okay. Well, I would say originally grew up playing baseball. Little league as a kid. My grandpa played for the Pirates way back when as a second stringer. And then dad played constantly. He actually went to a private school and made a switch to basketball, and my grandpa kind of like shunned him, and then he made his way back to baseball. And then when he had kids, he's like, you know what, I'm never going to, pressure my kid into sports like my dad did. He was there every single day, whether it's umping games or whatnot. And so he was always there, but he never really like pushed me heavy in baseball. So I never was really good, which was kind of a bummer. I was always the awkward kid out. Made my way through Little League ball up until high school and got cut from the team. I was kind of like that. I was that uncoordinated kid, just kind of friends with everybody, not super athletic. Loved baseball. But then I just found that I was actually somewhat okay at, inline. Like that was like in the 90s where there was like neon fanny packs and, super neon colored wheels and spandex and stuff like that. Yeah, that get that image in there. Right?
I totally remember those days.
Oh, man.
Because my first set of skates were black and purple with green neon yellow type skates with no ankle supports.
Were they Veriflex by chance?
They probably were. They probably. I don't remember the name, but it had a Velcro strap over the top, and then you had to lace them up with those neon yellow / green.
They had laces. To be. You weren't cool unless they were neon. I mean, that was a time in the 90s, man. I mean, mine were, you were cool depending on how many ratchet straps you had on yours. I was if they're made out of TPU plastic or something, you had 3 ratchet straps, you were the best. Yeah. So I started with that, and my folks were like, dude, you just, you just would go out and just skate. And that was kind of like also that weird time where aggressive skating was becoming the thing. And so I thought I was kind of cool, but I really wasn't. Let's be real here. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm not really going to make it aggressive skating. So I picked up a broom and started hitting a racquetball around. And then a couple other kids in the street, they just got their brooms and picked up a racquetball. God, it sounds like, hey, want to go play stickball? And then it turned into us getting enough money from allowance and cutting grass to buy hockey sticks, which, kind of like my grandpa shunning my dad. And when he made the move to basketball, he's like, well, you're not playing baseball anymore. I was like, well, no, I want to play hockey. And they're like, well, the parental thing of, hockey's the expensive sport. Right. So if you want to do that, get a job. So a local rink opened about 8 months prior, and I was getting my license at the time. And so it made sense. I'm just going to go get a job at a rink. So with virtually zero experience, I just became a service tech guy. I was the guy that sharpened everybody's skates. Worked the pro shop, which then ended up turning into, I worked every single department there was, from the snack shop to the fitness club to the front desk, Zamboni. I mean, I just did it all. I was there constantly. It got me out of curfew from my folks, and I started doing inline a little more because a couple of the people I worked with, they had a team. And I couldn't really skate. You go from skating with, neon, just stupid plastic wheels into a world that was not mine. I was baseball. That was my thing. Yeah. Actually, probably what locked me in, and my kids are gonna be like, "Oh, you told this story too many times, Dad." But the Chicago Freeze was the team that was kind of out of the rink. It's a bunch of 19-year-olds that are just looking at college, and they're doing their juniors level. Well, being at a pro shop, there's always that one guy that's the guy that everybody goes to see. His name was Dean. And a bunch of the guys on the Freeze were like, "Hey, buddy, we were doing this family skate. You should come out and skate," knowing that I am absolutely garbage. So I was like, but I don't have legitimate gear to go out and skate. They're like, "Oh, go borrow Dino's." Now, Dino was an older dude. His gear was so funky, it stood up on its own. It could play on its own. It told stories. I mean, his gear was drunk regularly. It was just that nasty. But I love the game enough to put the grossest thing on my body ever. And so I go out and skate, and I'm falling all over, total bender style. And a buddy of mine thought it'd be funny to stick his stick between my legs and pull. And I drop down, and with just red in my eyes, I turn around and I go to punch the first thing I see. Well, just so happened that the first guy that I caught was John Scott, who played on the Freeze at that time. And he was a monster back then when he was a kid. And he's obviously been around the league, but that was also the league where George Peros, he played with the Ducks and the Kings. Yep. Craig Anderson, who just he was a goalie, just retired with Sabres. John
Scott. Didn't he play for Ottawa too?
He played he was with the Senators for a million years.
A long time,
And he was second, third string and for a while, but they hung on to him forever. He's a super good dude. Yeah. And then, Scotty was there, and I connected with him, and it was, in my mind, it took years, but he sit there and just pummeled me, just working the body, everything. But all my friends had just kind of stopped, and I'm sitting here just swinging, doing one of these things like a freaking octopus, and not hitting anything. Blood coming down all over, Dino's gross gear and mine now, my gross stuff. And they realized there's something like, buddy, you could fall down with just a short breeze. Yet Scotty's sitting here pummeling you, and you haven't gone down. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
You can just imagine, like, you just got your hand on your head, and you're
Pretty
just
much.
swailing away.
That's kind of what it felt like. I mean, yeah, he was just taking pot shots, having fun. And, the only shot I actually got was when I turned around when he wasn't expecting it.
Right.
But
that
yeah,
probably
after
really
that,
got him too. So it's like,
he caught my nose and my lip, and, it was bleeding. And I'm just like, I got up and after he gave up. He's just like, dude, what are we doing? It's like, I was like, I don't know. Who did I hit? I was like, oh shit, I hit him. That was the worst guy to hit. So from there, I was just locked in. It was like, let's go. Like from then on, it was, 100 miles an hour. I dropped baseball like a bad habit, and been pretty much hockey for a while until, I realized I needed money and, got out of school and, found a girlfriend, ended up being wife kind of thing. But it was always kind of like in there. I was always playing at, drop-ins and stuff like that. Yeah. And then just one day we moved out to far west suburbs of Chicago in the middle of a cornfield, DeKalb, Illinois. Mm-hmm. And they had a rink. And I've been there a couple times, and then I just kind of forgot about it. And then they had probably one of the longer running, house leagues going. So I joined and just started playing. Like it was Sunday nights. That's just what I did. So
yeah, and then isn't Northern Illinois plays out of that facility?
No, actually, the inline club folded a couple years ago. Right. Actually, one of the guys on my Shamrocks team now was the last captain that was running it, keeping it together. Okay. They were quasi playing out of it, but they didn't have practices. They would join the Sunday league. So even though they would never practice as a team, they would just all be on teams there playing. Yeah. Prior seasons, they kind of ran out of that rank. It was a YMCA league. So there's a number of guys that have been in and out of MyHa and a bunch of other leagues that came through at NIU. They still have an ice team that a couple guys show up every once in a while, but yeah, it's still a league that's still running. I took my turn at running it for a while. A bunch of the guys on my team have run it for a while, so it's still going to this day. And I would consider that a home rink, but now that a lot of the places have closed in the Chicago area, Salt Creek Sports out of Palatine is where we're at. Yeah. So doing ice. I'm 7 days a week, man. 7 days a week.
Can't complain about that. Now, how did you first hear about MyHa? How did you decide hey, this is what I want to try to do? Because you've been around for 8 years now. It's going on 10 if you really want to think about it.
Time flies.
Yeah, it really does, especially when you're having that much fun.
Oh my God.
So tell us when you first heard about MyHa, and then tell us a little bit about your transition from literally just being a player and then now to running your own show.
Okay. Well, that was kind of weird because, we would go play Sunday league, and you'd show up to games, and you'd get there and you'd got 5 guys total, including your goalie. And you're like, where is the rest of my team? They're like, oh, they're at a tournament. We're like, well, why aren't they here? Well, they just keep on winning. I'm like, are they coming back? Oh, we're getting texts from guys saying, oh, we're on our way home. We don't know if we'll make it. So you just have to play Ironmans on the Sunday league. You get pissed off at these guys. And I never really knew what it was, what they were doing, but they would show up, on the occasions they'd come home from a tournament weekend, wearing, Shamrocks jerseys or something like that. so I always kind of knew, and finally it was like, okay, yeah, this is a tournament club. A lot of the guys play out of there, and they miss our games and make me have to skate a lot more, and it's really annoying. So for a handful of years, just playing Sunday League, that was really all I knew about it, until a guy named Sean Conlon, he started my with Staple and Carl and them. We knew each other. We were at a fair, and there was like a pickup volleyball league, and he was playing volleyball on the other team. He sees me, he's like, "Buddy, you play volleyball too?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was at a gym, and he was there, and I was playing racquetball. He's like, "Buddy, you play racquetball too?" And it was just like, we just kept on running. He was softball field. He's like, "You play softball too?" I was like, what don't you do? I was like, well, I kind of do everything. I'm making up for lost time for sucking as a kid, basically. Funny story. My mom, I was at a softball game. It was just a beer league softball game, and we lost horribly, but that was the big stick out there. Like there's this one game I managed to hit 11 runs in myself, and we still lost.
Wow.
It was bad. And I come out, and I'm kind of pissed. And my mom, she goes, "Wow, buddy, we really lost faith in you as a kid." I was like, "What?" She's like, "But you're really good now." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "But yeah, your father and I, we just didn't know." I was like, "What kind of backhanded ass compliment is that?" She's like, "You're really athletic." Yeah. Thanks. What do I get, a balloon now? What is this supposed to make up for lost time? What
is the clown going to jump out of the woodwork now?
Like, what's my self-worth? Buddy, you sucked your entire life. She wasn't wrong. So yeah, like Sean just saw me playing like all this stuff, and like I said, we were at this fair with volleyball, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to just play me, huh?" I was like, "Yeah." I didn't have kids at the time, so it was just like, what's one more? Let's go. I was married. We were living out here, and it seemed close and easy. So he got me in on Shamrock's T4. Kevin Brophy was running the team. Oh God, that's a name from the past.
Yeah, it is, and I remember it too.
Yeah, he was very belligerently loud.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, very. I could be wrong, but I think he's a ref for the USHL now.
Oh, nice.
I think so. Like the last I heard from the cat, I guess he was doing pretty good. Lost a ton of weight, which was cool.
Yeah, he lost that in like 2014, 2015.
Yeah,
right when I was on my way out.
On your way out, yeah, that's about right. I just remember him telling me, he's like, "Oh, I just had to put down the fork and I got a soda stream." I was like, "I'm not sure that's really what did it." My training says otherwise, but good for you, bud. Yeah. I guess they liked his brand, and when I guess when you're kind of sort of in the show, you just give up your hockey, and he was skating. So
yeah.
That was a little bit of a weird, I guess, entrance where the team was being ran by Sean. Mm-hmm. And Brophy was the captain of that team, and there was 5 or 6 other Shamrocks clubs all through the different levels. That being the T4 version, and then Kevin slowly going away, and it kind of left just Sean running the show. But he didn't play on the team, so he was always at the tournaments. So because I was just always at the Y playing my Sunday League games with him, he was just like, "Hey, are you coming to the tournament?" And then that slowly kind of weaseled its way into him saying, "Hey, we got a couple extra guys. Hey, could you collect this, or could you get that?" Or, I kind of became a little bit of his errand boy for a few years. And then he just kind of fizzled out. Like he was getting a job. He's a police officer still. I see him occasionally. I don't know if he's actually married. He's been dating a girl. I coached his girlfriend's kid in baseball a couple seasons ago. Saw him again. He's like, "Yeah, I just haven't had time, the whole thing." But yeah, ever since he kind of fizzled out, it was like, well, you hit that crossroads of, if somebody doesn't step up, am I going to be able to continue playing hockey? So it was just kind of since I was doing most of the stuff anyway, it was like, all right, well, I guess I'll just take it. So it really wasn't much. It wasn't as fancy. Like I didn't come in, guns blazing or anything. It just kind of landed on my lap.
Right.
At the time, there was still a T3 club. There was a T2 club, and Kyle Saunders was running the T2, and I forget, there was still 2 T3 teams at the time, but they didn't last very long. And they all just kind of bounced out, and the last one left, I just kind of was like, is it just me? Like one of those things, I guess it's me. And I had so much going, I was trying to start my career in landscaping and a couple other things, and I didn't want to run any more clubs like besides the one I was playing on. So I said, you know what, it's a small house, but I'm going to make it an awesome little house here. So let's start piecing these guys together, piecing the guys that I like to hang out with and travel with, and, just try to get rid of any fights and, drama. We were talking a little bit, half of the team was from St. Louis, and it just, as good a guys as they were, it was really hard. So I made kind of like a local Y club, because at that point that was kind of the pool I was yanking from. There was a Monday, Tuesday league over in Palatine that I said, hey, we got Sunday. What if we play this other league here and kind of use it as practice? And I started filtering out some of the St. Louis guys and bringing in some of my guys. And we use just the basic beer league as like a practice club.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stayed that way ever since. Now we've moved to now Thursdays. And, a lot of us still play at the Y, continually. I took this season off, but, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where it is. My Thursday team is kind of my hot team.
Nice.
So that in a nutshell is kind of the story of how I came into the Shamrocks. Nothing fancy. But I think where it turned a corner was, I hope, was it would have been early last season. I made the logo switch, new branding, just kind of a new facelift. It was, the weird, crazy looking Shamrock leprechaun was a little weird.
Yeah.
And it's an old logo. It's still the OG, but I figured it needed some new life to bring in some new people. So did that. I don't know what guys are saying behind my back about like, oh, the jersey sucks, but or it was awesome. But yeah, I figured we should do that. Yeah, and then we're just playing, keeping it small, and hopefully building with a little bit of time instead of hiring out these young guns to go and win. I would rather win the war instead of just the battle. So
right. Yeah, and so now you guys have one more tournament left. You're sitting at 500. You're 5 wins, 5 losses. You might have an overtime loss or overtime win or something like that.
Yep,
a couple of them.
A couple of them, actually.
Something, yeah. You guys were in 13th place. You dropped down to 14th, but you still are within striking distance to make the championships. I'm not sure how many teams are making it into the championships this year. That's something that I haven't had a chance to ask Carl about yet.
Yep, that's the question.
I don't know if it's the first 10 or if it's going to be the first 15.
With the amount of T4 clubs in there, I really hope it's the first 15, at least the first 10. Right. I know last year he had to make some switches, which we were on that bubble and we got knocked out. I believe we were, 1 or 2 away from making it or not. And I wasn't going to hold my breath because he didn't know at the time, but I was just like, well, here's to next year.
Yep.
We're on that bubble. The injuries have not helped us. This past tournament, we had a couple guys that, well, hey, I only have my kids. This is my weekend kind of thing. There's some illness. My buddy Dale, he's now assumed the nickname Mr. Glass. He's always broken. Just a slew of things. So we came in with a lean crew, and I don't think they beat us on skill. They just beat us on legs. That's pure what it is. And, even for myself, you make mistakes.
And it's tough when you have a short bench like that to overcome, especially those younger legs. But hopefully Mr. Glass is doing much better. That he's able to recover. He's got a couple more weeks until Fort Wayne. Is it Fort Wayne 1 or Fort Wayne 2?
I think that'd be Fort Wayne 2 because we're like the 12th, 13th, whatever that weekend is, that second weekend.
Okay, yeah, that was with Uncle Russ Christopher was asking me if I was going to be there for that.
Yes, Uncle Russ. Love that guy.
I do too. I love him, awesome. but he's still hit me with that puck, man.
Man.
I was standing on the bench and he's like, he's gonna yell at me for even telling the story on the pod. but he's like, come on, man, really? I apologized. How much more are you gonna make me suffer? And I go, every chance I see you, buddy.
Every chance.
But no, it's like I think I was just coaching. I just happened to be just standing there on the bench. I was coaching, and he was just clearing the puck, and it just happened to just get chucked right at me, and I was just
oh God,
come on, man! What are you doing?
What are you doing?
And he apologized immediately. Felt really bad. But it didn't hurt. I just wanted to give him some flack.
100%. You could totally play into it. You could be like,
it's still like I had a broken tooth from that, man.
My God, like the bills I've had, man. Just lean into it hard. That's a good guy right there.
I love Russ.
Shamrock too. Shoot.
Yep. Yeah,
it's weird. You go to some of these tournaments and how many cats have come through, the Shamrocks club. I was just in Detroit. I was in the bathroom and, they're walking in talking about Shamrocks and, sitting at the pisser and, lean over to one of the guys that, is there and like, oh yeah, Shamrocks. And I walk out the stall and I was like, yep, I'm that guy. And they're like, yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, I was a Shamrock, back in, in the year of our Lord, it's like, so, it's just funny how many guys have been in and out. I'd be curious if somebody put a full list out, 60, 70 names long at least.
Probably more like 120.
120. Yeah, you're probably not wrong at all. I'm probably way the under. But yeah, it's every tournament we ever go to, there's always guys like, oh yeah, I played for, or, so-and-so's buddy, but, yeah, I mean, I don't know if guys have constantly come up to me and be like, oh, you getting a T3 team going? Especially when we were a T3 team. Mm-hmm. I put together a club of, some crack shots a couple seasons ago. And it was right at the turn of Staples selling to Carl. Staples like, you guys are too good for T4, really good for T4. So but you're not really good for T3. So we're going to do this T3B thing. I was like, well, what? I don't understand. Okay. So we were in that for a bit. And then the season where Nasher came down to T3, we didn't quite get the memo and we became a highlight reel on his Instagram. That wasn't fun. Yeah,
it's never fun being a highlight reel on Nasher's thing, unless you're the one getting the upper hand.
Getting the upper hand,
and then it's okay.
It is super okay. I rode home with a guy that got walked. He was my neighbor, super good dude. Yeah. Love him to death. Still plays hockey now. He goes to Ice Hogs game with us and whatever. But I told myself, Nasher's on this team. I'm on Mark's defensive line. Do not get walked. That was my only goal, even though we got our asses kicked that week. I mean, there was, I think, Indy Fuel. I remember them leaning over their guys, be like, hey, can we play a full game for them just for their sanity? Thank you guys.
Right.
We're going to, we don't want to mercy them again. Nasher walks them doing the thing. And I was like, he walked him, not me. So my goal is good. But then it went up on Instagram and we were driving home and everybody's like, oh, Mark's got walked. And, so then he's like, I haven't been able to get him back since. It was a bummer because he's a super good guy. He's a really good hockey player. And it was just that one, he's got good hands, so, of course he walked him. But yeah, that season we didn't get the memo. We didn't go that far. And it was Carl was taking over, and it's like, you know what, put us back down to T4, because it seemed like everybody from T2 came down to T3 and T3 came down to T4. Yep. It was like, I need to get a group of guys that are ready, because the group that I built, they all left, you know, like I tried getting a group of good guns, but they were just like that. They were in and out, and I'm like, I can't have that. I gotta play the long game. So here we are.
Yeah.
Trying to fight
so you got the Fort Wayne tournament coming up. What are you guys doing to prepare yourselves for that tournament? Because you need a couple of W's to really kind of push you up there, because you are within striking distance. What are you guys doing to prepare yourselves for that? Or is it more of a let's just rest and recoup? I know you said you guys got Thursday night. You know, you guys are all playing together, so your chemistry is going to still be there.
Yep.
You know, so it's just.
You know, I think a lot of it is after these weekends, and like I said, I would be actually kind of curious as far as age, like consistent age. You know, I'm 42 at the moment. There's only one guy that's older than me on the team by like 6 months.
Right.
But our average age, with the exception of, you know, my young guy who's an old soul, I think we're like 36, 37 is the average age of our team.
Wow.
You know, most of us have kids. You know, we got lives, jobs, the whole thing, like most of us do. But preparation ends up being a lot more like beer league kind of stuff. But when we come off of a loss where we're like, hey, we had a good time, especially this past weekend in Detroit. I mean, there's even some stories we could tell here if you want to get into it. They were great. But we closed the weekend at a 500, and we're disappointed at our own personal play. And it's like, okay, I think we're old enough to realize that, hey, our conditioning is not where it needs to be. You know, we got 3 weeks or so that we got to do something with. You know, even on the way home, you know, it was me and two other guys, you know, they were tapping into me for like nutrition advice, because, you know, I got those letters behind my name too. And, you know, they're like, we got to do something. So I think a lot of it is the chemistry has been there, because most of us have been playing easily over a decade. We know about where they're going to be. You know, when we have to add into a sub, that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. But the subs that I added this past tourney were a good addition. They're just newer additions to it. And even though they play beer league with us on occasion, it's just really like go home, rest, and really do those things, those details that, you know, us older guys kind of have to do. Like, we can beat them by experience, and we should be doing that. So going into Fort Wayne, knowing that we're going to be close, you know, we're in firing range, you know, I think it's more about getting healthy, like even including for me. I mean, I came home and my wife looked at me and she's like, you look like hell. I was like, I feel like hell. And I don't like that. And today was like, I got to do something different. No better time to start than now again.
Right.
So I think it's the details outside of the rink is the most important. I mean, we can't keep skating heavy and hard forever, but there's got to be things we can do conditioning wise. I think is probably the most important, because we'll win by experience, you know?
Yeah, so. Sure. So now, with that being said, you know, yeah, you might be right with one of the oldest teams in the league. I think Beer City Growlers might be a little bit older.
They might be a little bit, yeah.
But because I know Mike Enders, the goalie, he is quite a bit older than us by a couple years. You know, and then of course he's got, you know, all his buddies there too. Styles played with me in Major League Growers, and so did Norm. You know, so those guys, they've always been, I feel like, slightly older than me, but a couple of them could be a couple years younger than me, so it could balance it out, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But yeah. So with that, what are some of the teams that you enjoy playing against? What are some of the teams that you are like, man, I really want to play this team, but I really wish it was in the finals instead of first round?
You know, we've played most of them. I think maybe like a guilty habit would be beating Leaf Rays. They beat us in OT in our home rink. And that one we gave away. So I think it's more just, it's probably a pride point where it's like, hey, we want to prove to ourselves that, we're not just hitting the curse kind of thing. Cause they've done this a couple times to us.
Yeah.
That would be one of them. Wouldn't mind playing Madison. I know they're a newer club. I got a couple buddies that, have played Thursday league with me that are there too. Decent group of guys. I would like to say, playing Knights, even though this past tournament, they were in the upper division of that. They've consistently been, I'm a little jaded with some of the teams that we play against in Meha, like Pats or Syndicate or some of those, because we play with them all time every week.
Right.
So it's like most of the time we're sitting right to the next seat, sharing a drink. So it's like it's more probably the teams that we don't get to play. I'd like another shot at Fusion again, especially after this weekend. Yeah. But challenging ourselves, I don't know if those are challenge points. Leaf Rays would probably be the one big challenge point. If we had legs, Street Sharks again. If we had normally I run a bench of 10, we had 8. I would really like to see the difference in those with some of those kind of teams. Lansing was a good team. They worked us hard and they slaughtered us. We had 3 minutes left in the third. But I don't think we played to our potential. That I think would probably be Leaf Rays, Knights, Street Sharks. A bunch of the others. Like I said, I like them. They're good guys. But we play too often together. So that'd probably be good. Fusion. Yeah, another one. So.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned the Leaf Rays and the Sharks, because that's the number 1 team in your division and the number 2 team in your division. And you've played both of them extremely competitive. So you guys are not that far. A couple of bounces here or there, and they could be having a couple more L's on their record, and you guys could have a couple more points on the board for you guys.
It'd be nice. We need them. We were, I guess, our spirits were a little bit up, despite the outcome of this past weekend. Is we've had a curse of the first game on Sunday. Just not getting to, especially in our home rink when we got beat by Leaf Rays earlier this year. We lost an OT to them, and on our home rink as the first game Sunday. So we lose out on that second game points. And we've really struggled in the past season of making it past that first game on Sunday. Yeah. So I think that regardless who we're playing, as long as we can get past that first game, we feel a little better about ourselves mentally. Maybe not physically, but mentally we do. So, and I know in the standings that really helps. So we got 1 tournament left. I know there's a few that have a couple more tournaments left. I think Leaf Rays are done. I don't know if they have any more tournaments.
Yep, no, they're completely done. I just talked to Blaine Barker last week. Okay. His episode will be dropping in a couple weeks. Yeah, and then so they're done. I think Lansing Street Sharks have 1 more tournament. Buffalo Fusion I think they have 1 more as well, but I think that might be out in Buffalo. So yeah, I mean and I think Grove City has 2 more. But they're also toward the bottom of the standings as well.
Right.
So right now it's still pretty wide open.
It is. We gotta come with some fire though. I mean, we gotta guns ablazing, firing all cylinders. Pick your analogy. We gotta do it. Yeah, I was pretty lit up on when we played Leaf Rays, and it was kind of funny. Guy ended up taking me down hard. Like he grabbed my stick and took me down as like I was pissed off, and I rarely don't get pissed off, and it's a curse for me. I play the nice guy role sometimes too much. This time it just clicked. I'm like, do you want to go? And I stood up to this guy, and we were mask to mask, and my wife was sitting on the other side, and Uncle Russ was right there like, oh shit, buddy got mad. Like, guys, pipe down, something's gonna happen.
Buddy never gets mad.
Buddy never gets mad. I'm just, I'm a whole head taller than this cat. I'm like, I will literally yard sale your body parts. Let's go. And he's like, I want none of this right now. I was like, you want a piece of this because I want it too. Like, I'm starting unbuckling my helmet, and I'm like, he's like, no. And then we got to the bench, and he's like, are we good? I was like, I'm good now.
Yeah.
I was like, I felt like I was another person. Oh my gosh. Holy crap. But yeah, I was like, just bringing some of that fire back. It's like, all right, we've kind of got into this habit, of playing a little bit of a skill game, overhandling the puck too much, not playing the body as well as we should. And it's like, I want to practice what I preach to, like, even my own kids. It's like, you got to body guys up. It's part of the game. Don't blast them, but you like hips to hands, do the simple stuff, the fundamental things.
Yep. Enough to put, to let them know that you're there, so that that way they don't take those liberties against you and take advantage of your generosity.
That's perfect. And, I kind of want them to fear making that move on me. Like I don't want to think that they can just have their way with me, kind of thing. And I think we've been a nice enough team to where most guys think that they could just move around and we just play fiddlesticks. And it's like, I see it happening from the bench. Again, I want to practice what I preach even to my own kids. Cause my family didn't make it to Detroit, but they were watching on Live Barn, and they were like, my kids were giving me notes, and I'm like, I don't like that. But I get it. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
It means I'm doing a good thing as a dad or a coach. I don't know. I'm a terrible hockey player. There's that too.
Right. So now you also have your very own pro shop too, right?
I do.
And you started that at the beginning or at the end of COVID here. So tell me, we started to talk about it, but then I'm like, no, let's save it for the pod, because this sounds like it's going to be a good story.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to end the episode shortly.
Perfect. Yeah. So like I said, I got a job at a pro shop when I finally got a license, and I wanted to start playing hockey. And I told myself that was my most favorite job I ever did. Like, I could just sharpen skates all day long. Like, it was my favorite thing. I'm not the best hockey player. Like, I admit that on my team, I joke that I'm on the team because I run it.
That's true.
There's a spot for everyone.
That's an excellent way to look at it, though, because if you think about it, you don't want to be the best player on your team. You want to be you don't want to be the worst player either, but you also want to be that player that, is gonna, you don't have that stress of having to do it all.
Exactly. And, like, what I know about business and what I've learned from some mentors of mine is you put people in front of you that are better than you. Mm-hmm. And when I started working, I really enjoyed, sharpening and maintenance and, custom work and just the gear side of it. I'm a nerd, when it comes to that. So when I started getting my kids into ice and whatnot, you go to the pro shop and, you got to get their skates sharpened. Well, so does, 30 other parents that are getting off the ice, and you're sitting there waiting for the booger picking kid to sharpen skates. And you're like, I want to go home. It's a 45-minute drive for me to go home, and I have to wait another hour and a half just to get to my skate sharpened. Mm-hmm. I was like, and then some kid who's barely out of high school, is going to sharpen my kid's skate when I know I can do it better. Mm-hmm. That kind of turned into, what? I wonder if I should start looking. And so, Sparks started coming out with their machines, and I was like, I'm old school as it gets. Like I'm a Blade Master sharpener, Wasota, you name it, Easy Sharp, all those old school names. I just couldn't fathom spending that much money for upright machines. So I bought a Sparks. I almost bought some of Pure Hockey's, machines, but, I didn't necessarily want to let go of $8,000, right at the moment. So got a machine, and I decided, let's get into business. So I got into business on March 10th of 2020, and March 11th, they shut everything down. So that was a super, let's go business. Let's not. And it was the shortest business venture I've ever had in my life. But I had to pivot, and I said, you know what? I don't have a store that I want to open. I wanted to do something different. And I told myself even before then, I was like, I want to be a mobile shop. Mm-hmm. I have a Sparks now. I can bring this somewhere. However, I can bring an old school mentality to some of this. I can bring my riveter. I can bring all my tools. Like I have all my stuff in my truck anyway.
Yeah.
So when everything closed down, I was the only guy that can sharpen skates. Okay. You know, so I just started coming up with some innovative marketing things. Like there was kids that were walking in, like in the parking lots with their skates on, and I just saw dollar signs. Like they had a home dress just to go into the rink. Mm-hmm. So I would throw out a tent, I would throw bags out, get a fan on a hot day, open up a cooler of beer for the folks that were outside, and they would just come and I would sharpen their skates. They would drink beer and play bags. And it just turned into, you know, the mobile thing was a little bit of a, you know, it was definitely a marketing thing. And I still do mobile, but I bring my machine pretty much with me wherever. I had it this weekend if anybody needed. I had an inline tournament because I'm smart. But yeah, like I got kind of a name in the game. I do a ton of customs. Like my thing is ice to inline swaps. I am a graph distributor. I distribute Epic hockey sticks. Probably one of the main guys that installs Mars Blade right now. Trying to work on deals with them. I got service accounts with Bauer and CCM. I do not do stocking with them because they want like $1 million for initial stocking order of equipment. And no, not going to do that. I tried to make it for the little guy. There's a lot of guys in the market today. It's 10% of the market because the other 90% is Bauer, but there's a lot of good stuff out there that a lot of people don't know. So I'm trying to like promote them, you know, because I'm a small business and hockey players are not the most financially set folk. So try to make it easy for them with gear and service, but have a very pro level quality of service. So I'm actually, per my website, CorsairsHockeyEQ.com is a shameless plug. I'm a contract equipment manager. So like NIU, which is the college here, I'm basically their equipment manager. Basically, any of the club teams, they get me. If a kid's on their team, a lot of the parents will just contract me to come in and sharpen it for like a Bantam team or a sports team or, you know, one of those. So it's not like I need to have a brick and mortar shop. I'm one of 3 guys in the country that are doing it. The only guy that's actively doing it mobile. So it's kind of a unique niche. I do a lot of stuff out of my house, and most of the stuff I can do out of my truck. So
nice. That's awesome.
Got an athletic clothing company coming out hopefully this year, specific in hockey training. There's not a lot of brands out there because also I'm a personal trainer, nutritionist too. So it's like I wanted a hockey specific training brand. So, you know, we're coming out with custom cut proof gear, lifestyle stuff, you know, like Under Armour type stuff, but homegrown, not big business kind of stuff. Again, trying to keep it, you know, niche, cool ass designs. Just kind of cool stuff that the industry doesn't have yet, you know, along with the pro shop and just trying to fit it all in. So, yeah.
I think that's awesome. You actually touched base with a couple of things that you and I are going to discuss after this pod. So, buddy, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to share us your journey. We will definitely have you back on to give you your championship predictions, whether or not you guys make it or not. I think you guys have a very good chance. You know, especially if you guys come out guns blazing. You got a couple weeks to rest up, so hopefully you guys can make it happen because you know I'm cheering for you guys.
Thanks, man. So, I appreciate it.
Yep. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of GCH Podcast. I'm your host, Ben W. Stock. Thanks, Buddy Fugman, for coming in. Did I say that right?
You did, Fugman. Yep.
I always do because I always question myself. You know, so
go with your gut. You're good.
Outside of, or you know, when it's not on the air, it always goes smoothly. Once the cameras go, I just find a way to just butcher it. So
that's all right. That's all right.
But again, thanks so much for coming on, and we will talk to you guys on the flip side.
Thank you.